Vries is a driver who Formula 1 never quite worked out for him. But F1 no working out for him does not take away from the fact that he claimed the Formula 2 championship in 2019 after a brilliant season, while also racing elsewhere to boot, but I'll come back to that later. 2019 was de Vries' third season in this series. He had driven for Rapax and Racing Engineering in 2017, his rookie year, which he finished up in 7th place, before moving to Prema for 2018, and he had a better year finishing up in 4th. But he returned for a third year in 2019, and once again he moved teams, this time to reigning champions ART, who had taken both titles the year before at the hands of George Russell. So he'd landed himself in a good team to be with. De Vries had a decent start to the season. By no means spectacular, but it was decent. Qualifying third for the season opener, though he did slip backwards to finishing 6th in the feature race, which was won by Nicholas Latifi, who would end up being de Vries' main title rival. He started third again for the sprint race, it reversed grid for the top 8 and all, but he slipped backwards again during the race to finish in 7th. So as I said, no spectacular by any means, but it wasn't terrible. The second weekend of the season in Azerbaijan proved much better for the Dutchman. He stuck his ART second in qualifying and in the feature race, but saw several retirements in the regularly scheduled F2 Baku carnage we're all used to by now. De Vries survived all to claim his first podium of the season, finishing up in 2nd place, just a couple of seconds behind the winner Jack Aitken, and a couple of seconds ahead of Jordan King in 3rd. Then from starting 7th in the sprint race, he once again survived the normal Baku F2 chaos to progress forward to finishing in 4th. Results that meant de Vries was now in the top 5 of the Drivers' Championship standings, 24 points off Latifi in the championship lead. But the thing this weekend was misremembered for is this demonstration from Mahavir Raghunathan of how not to get out of an escape road. What's that guy doing these days, by the way? I swear I haven't heard anything of him for years. But back to Nyck, for whom Baku proved to be the start of a good run of form, because as we head off to Barcelona, the Dutchman stuck his ART 4th on the grid, which became 5th at the end of the feature race. And yes, that may not sound like something that belongs in the statement of a good run of form, but the thing about de Vries' 2019 season is that aside from a couple of races, his bad days, you could say, were him finishing somewhere between 5th and 7th. And that's where you want the bad days to be. And anyway, for 4th on the grid in Sunday's sprint race, de Vries ended up getting the better of Ilott, King and Hubert, who were starting ahead of him, to go on to claim his first race win of the season, allowing him to move up to 3rd in the Drivers' Championship. In Monaco though, he had perhaps his best weekend of the season so far. Now in Group A for qualifying, the fastest time was set by Callum Ilott, a 1:21.462. De Vries was in Group B and set a fastest time there, a 1:20.676. 8/10 quicker. Insane. It is worth noting that de Vries has won Monaco in F2 before, having taken the sprint race win back in 2017. So he's had good experience of winning Monaco before, and just good experience driving Monaco in general. And he put all that to good use to dominate the race, get his 2nd win of the season, going on to take home 7th in the sprint race as well. And the good thing for de Vries is that the whole weekend he scored 31 points, and Latifi only scored 2. The 2 points he got for having the fastest lap in the top 10 in the sprint. So in short, the 30 points gap between the Canadian and the Dutchman was now a 1-point gap. Oh, how much things can change in a single weekend. Latifi did have a strong start to the season, but Monaco is definitely where things shifted into de Vries' favour, taking a 2nd consecutive feature race win for 4th on the grid, plus the fastest lap in France's feature race, which was his only point score of the weekend because he finished 10th in the sprint. But with Latifi only finishing 5th and 6th in the 2 races, it meant that de Vries now led the championship by 12 points. 5th and 6th isn't exactly bad, like I said earlier, and as F2 pundits have said before, you want the bad days to be around that 5th or 6th place. But 9th, however, is not as great, and that's where he finished in the first race of the weekend in Austria, while de Vries was taking his first of 2 third place finishes of the weekend, because he finished 3rd in the sprint race as well with the fastest lap, and he'd also nabbed pole in qualifying for another 4 points. With Latifi only claiming 6 points across the weekend, it meant de Vries' championship lead had now grown to a mammoth 37 points at the midway point of the season. Oh, and by the way, if you're enjoying this video, why not subscribe for more F1 content? And also drop a like if you enjoyed the video, leave a comment as well to let me know your thoughts, it really helps out, but let's get back to it. It's now that I'm going to choose to circle back to my comment at the start of the video about how Nyck was also driving elsewhere in 2019 alongside F2. Where was he? Well, as well as Formula 2 at this time, Nyck de Vries was also racing in the World Endurance Championship in the LMP2 class for Racing Team Netherlands. How'd he do? He did alright in the 3 races of the 18-19 season that remained to be held during 2019, in Sebring in March, Spa in May, and then the finale at the 2019 24 Hours of Le Mans in June. Nick and his co-drivers Guido van der Garde and Fitz van Arl, they finished 5th in class in all 3 races. And in terms of championship position in the World Endurance Trophy for LMP2 drivers, Nick finished in 9th, having actually missed the first 2 races of the 18-19 season, and his team in the LMP2 Teams Trophy finished in 6th. Then when the 1920 season got underway, driving with the same team and with the same drivers, the first 4 races were set to take place in 2019 at Silverstone, Fuji, Shanghai and Bahrain. Nick missed round 1 because of F2, but returned for round 2 at Fuji, which he and his co-drivers took the LMP2 win at, before going on to finish 5th in Shanghai and Bahrain respectively. And for those curious, once this season finally finished in late 2020, Nick would find himself in 10th in the LMP2 Drivers' Trophy standings, while Racing Team Netherlands had a much better result to last season, finishing 4th in the LMP2 Teams Trophy. No set in the world of light, but really not that bad. And honestly impressive how De Vries was able to combine Formula 2 racing with also racing in the World Endurance Championship, which he still races in today, but now in the hypercar class with Toyota, alongside his Formula E ventures. Okay, now back to the F2 action. Silverstone was the knee stop on the calendar. He had an average qualifying and feature race, 7th and 6th respectively, but in the sprint he claimed a podium after he finished where he started in 3rd. But thanks to his 2nd place finish in the main race, Latifi did close the championship gap to 31 points. But De Vries still had a healthy lead heading into the final round before the summer break, which was Hungary. He nabbed 4 points from qualifying as he claimed pole position, but he got bested by Latifi during the main race and he finished 2nd behind the Canadian, which gave him 7th on the grid for the sprint race, which has turned into a 6th place finish, ahead of his rival, who now sat 30 points ahead of him. At Spa, both races were cancelled after the tragic events of Saturday, so the only points scored that weekend in F2 were the 4 that Nick got for taking pole, so we move right on to Monza. The Dutchman had originally qualified 4th place at the Temple of Speed, but he got chucked out of qualifying due to a fuel infringement, and thus he had to start last. But did he let that small problem hold him back? Of course he didn't. He did not let that small problem get in the way of having a brilliant feature race as he came back to a 3rd place finish after a fine drive, and backing it up with another 3rd place finish in the sprint race. This meant he'd scored 25 points across the weekend, while his rival Nicholas Latifi scored a grand total of 0, meaning the gap, with 2 weekends, 4 races remaining, sat at 59 points, and a total of 96 left available. At the penultimate weekend in Russia, then De Vries could claim the championship in the feature race, and he made a good start of trying to do that, as he claimed pole position, which gave him 4 points. But Latifi was joining him on the front row, and now what the Canadian driver needed to do for his best chances in the championship was get the better of De Vries in the race and take a win. But what actually happened is he finished in 2nd place while Nick won it by 5 seconds, meaning the gap between them sat at 70 points, with 65 left available, meaning that Nyck de Vries, after claiming his 4th win of the season, had claimed the 2019 Formula 2 Championship with 3 races to spare. He claimed a 2nd place finish in the sprint race to cap off what was his best weekend of the season for the Dutchman, and that was his last points of the season because Abu Dhabi was a weekend to forget with a pair of 13th places, but that doesn't really matter too much. Come the end of that Abu Dhabi weekend, Nick had won the title by 52 points in the end to Nicholas Latifi, with the top 5 being rounded off by Giotto, Camera and Aitken. It had been a pretty damn consistent season for De Vries, and at the end of the day, that consistency is what matters in a series like F2. That and hoping you don't get screwed over by mechachroming. And again, pairing F2 with WEC and doing decently in both, taking a championship in one of them, is still really damn impressive, to be honest. Anyways, I'll leave this one here. Let me get your thoughts down in the comments below. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new around here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.